Welcome everyone to the first episode of Reese's Roundup in 2019. I am your host, the Lightning Kid himself, and today is a special day because today makes it was around this time 3 years ago. 3 years ago? 3 years ago, yeah, where I started Reese's Roundup.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lightning Kid here, bringing it back to you with the very first episode of Reese's Roundup.
And we've been balling ever since. Inconsistently, of course, but we've been balling ever since. Today marks the start of the NFL playoffs. And I gotta talk about it. That's why I'm a day early on Reese's Roundup. So, who's in the playoffs? Well, we got the Colts and the Texans. We got the Seahawks and the Cowboys. We got the Chargers and the Ravens. And we got the Eagles and the Bears. This weekend, of course. The other 4 teams have a first round bye. Whoever wins these games this weekend will play next week against those top seeded teams. But let's see who's going to face those teams, those top seeded teams. Starting with the Colts and the Texans. Now, this one was a tricky one. I did some research and I came into this saying the Texans, and I still think the Texans are going to win. But I'm not sleeping on the Colts. No way am I sleeping on the Colts. But I think the Colts are a very good team, and they've really done well this season. But I just feel like the Texans have a more complete team. You know, I think I think they both have pretty good defenses. And the Texans offense, I mean, you just look at it on paper. The Texans have a pretty stacked offense. You got Deshaun Watson, Lamar Miller. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the league right now. So you really just can't go against that. Plus, a good Texans defense will probably best a slightly above average Colts offense. But you know, the Colts have been really improving this season with every game that they've played. So I think this is going to be the best game this weekend. I really have no idea who's going to really come out on top, but my gut says go with the Texans. So if you guys have any bets, go with the Texans. You got the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Now, these are probably my two least favorite teams. Obviously, because I'm a Cardinals fan, so I'm gonna hate the Seahawks and Cowboys. I mean, God, you know who likes the Cowboys outside of their fan base? So, and you want to talk about these two teams. These must be the 2 luckiest teams in the league. I mean, the Seahawks are lucky, but the Cowboys are just luckier. I mean, had Alex Smith not gone down with an injury playing for the Redskins would have taken that division without a doubt, 100%. And with the Eagles playing, if the Eagles started Nick Foles to start the season, they would have won that division hands down. So, I mean, the Cowboys just knew how to sneak into the playoffs. But I mean, and if you really think about it, I don't even know how the Seahawks even made the playoffs. Like, how did they even get in there? They just started off so rough, so slumped, so ragged, and they just balled out. I mean, they've had the #1 rush offense in the league. I don't know what they've been doing on defense because Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas have been out. Maybe they just had a really easy schedule, but the Seahawks managed to get themselves in. Despite that, I think the Seahawks are just the better team. I think the Cowboys' luck is going to run out. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott's one of the top backs in the league. Dak Prescott is carried by his running back. Amari Cooper's really been playing well, but I just don't think that against the Seahawks, that offense is going to ball out. And, you know, the Cowboys' defense is almost non-existent, especially against Russell Wilson and that offense. I don't think the Cowboys defense will hold against the Seahawks. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks on this one. I think Seattle will best Dallas, but it pains me to say that. Next, you got the Chargers and the Ravens. I think this is also going to be a really good game. You know, Lamar Jackson's been playing really well. I think what is he, 5-1, 6-1 since becoming a starter? In that short time span, he has the most rush attempts in NFL history. I think if I read that correctly. So that's a pretty big feat for him, which just means that all the Chargers have to do is stop the run, because Lamar Jackson's arm is not as good as his legs. So if you stop Lamar Jackson from running and force him to pass, boom, you win. And I think the Chargers just have a more complete team as well. You know, Phillip Rivers has been balling out this season, and that Chargers defense is one of a kind this season as well. So I think the Chargers really have what it takes to not only win this game, but make it pretty far in the playoffs. But we'll get there next week, trust me. You really can't sleep on the Ravens defense, though. I can't lie on that. The Ravens really have been super solid on defense, and that's pretty much the reason why they've been winning all these games recently, you know, despite Lamar Jackson too. But I mean, that Ravens defense has been balling. So but despite that, I think the Chargers can take it. I think the Chargers will hold I think the Chargers defense will hold that Ravens offense well enough for the Chargers to, you know, score enough points on offense to win the game. I think that's how it's going to go. And last but not least, you have the Eagles versus the Bears. Now, Nick Foles is going to play, but I think the Eagles' luck is going to run out. You know, you can't go against Nick Foles. He's the greatest quarterback of all time, obviously. But that Bears defense is too scary, man. I mean, they're just way too scary, and the Eagles have been riddled with injuries. I'm super happy that they made the playoffs, but I think this is where it ends, because that Bears defense is going to murder somebody in a couple, or tonight or tomorrow, whenever that game is. But it's gonna be tough, and I feel sorry for the Eagles. But you know, the Bears don't even have that good of an offense either. They just been super reliant on their defense, and I don't blame them, because that defense is tough. But yeah, I think the Bears are obviously going to win this game. Sorry, Eagles. And in other news, carrying on from the NFL, there's been a lot of firings. Steve Wilkes, head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, thank God he's finally gone. Everybody's talking about how he didn't really get a chance, but you know, I'm a Cardinals fan, guys. Steve Wilkes was not good. Despite only having 1 year, Bruce Arians, when he started with the Cardinals, took his team 10-6. Steve Wilkes wanted to change everything around. He wasn't a leader. He blamed everybody except himself. He didn't have the right mentality to be a head coach, and it showed with a 3-13 record. I mean, gosh. Marvin Lewis finally fired after 16 seasons. He's had a really decent winning record, but 0-7 in the playoffs. I mean, the guy can get you to the playoffs, but he can't do anything in the playoffs. So obviously his you know, it was about that time that they got rid of him. Next you got Vance Joseph for the Denver Broncos. He's been fired after the Broncos had 2 back-to-back losing seasons. That's why they fired him. Next you had Adam Gase, head coach for the Miami Dolphins. He was fired. You know, I got nothing to say about the guy except that he's being interviewed by the Arizona Cardinals. So that's all I can say about that. And last but not least, you got Mike McCarthy. He was being interviewed by the Cleveland Browns. You know, this one kind of surprised me. Mike McCarthy's an all-right coach, but the Browns did pretty solid after they fired Hugh Jackson. So I think they should keep who they had as their head coach after Hugh Jackson was fired. But that's just me. Mike McCarthy might turn that team into a winning team after all. So we'll see how that goes. But let me know what you guys think. Who's going to win this weekend in the playoffs? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.